yourself, say you come away with the victory, which obviously you're anticipating, where does he rank in terms of your wins?
My wins, they'd probably be like Deontay Wilder, then Klitschko, then Derek Chisora, then probably Otto Walling, and then I would say him. Oh no, Steve Cunningham.
I'm sorry. That tickled me every time I hear that. All right, let's get to why we're here. As we all probably know, Tyson Fury has declared after he beat Dillian White, that's it. He doesn't care about a Joshua Usyk winner. He's going to go ahead and retire. Maybe fight the MMA guy from the UFC. I forget his name. Said maybe fight him in like an exhibition type fight or whatever, and that'll be it. Said he's retiring. Said he really doesn't have anything else to gain. He's done it all, etc., etc. And to a certain extent, I can agree with what he's saying. Far as the titles won, Ring Magazine, WBC, WBA, WBO, IBF, even won the IBO title, if I'm not mistaken. So he has won all of the titles. Never won them, never held them all at one time. The WBC, either that or he had the other belts. I don't put that much stock in the linear whatever. To me, that's a bunch of nonsense. But we'll get to that later. But anyway, he's saying that when he does retire, if he beats Dillian White, and most people think he will, if he does retire after Dillian White, he believes he will go down as the greatest heavyweight of all time. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I think talent-wise, if you look at the size, the strength, the abilities that he has to be able to fight with both hands, the footwork, the head movement, the jab with both hands, I could argue that he's top 10 talent. But it's nowhere in the world I would say Tyson Fury is a top 10 all-time heavyweight. I just can't do it. To me, that's laughable. And you heard his resume coming out of his own mouth, who he said was his best fights. Deontay Wilder twice. I'm sorry, I can't give him 3. It was a draw. Vladimir Klitschko. He fought Derek Chisora twice and beat him twice. And who'd he say? Otto Walling, who hasn't done anything. Matter of fact, let's work our way through him. Deontay Wilder, outside of Fury, or you could throw him with Fury. You could argue best heavyweight of this time, arguably. If you don't want to say Fury, you probably would say Wilder or Joshua. So at the very least, top 3 heavyweight of this generation. Then he beat the probably the top heavyweight of the previous generation. So I give him that. Those are 2 very good wins. Very good. Great wins. But after that, it's just, he named off Derek Chisora as his 3rd, as far as who he fought. To me, that ain't saying much. No offense to Derek Chisora. Definitely somebody you would want to watch in a fight. But would you be putting your money on him? I mean, they don't call him War for nothing. But good old Del Boy is more of a journeyman than he was a challenger. His biggest wins is against an overrated David Price and a poor man version of him in Kevin Johnson. Okay, who you got? Who he say next? After that, I think he said Otto Walling. I mean, okay, outside of Fury, we haven't seen him do anything. So we don't know what we got with Otto Walling. That could wind up being one of his top 2 or 3 fights, or it could be one that stinks, depending on how the rest of his career goes. It's too much of an unknown with Otto Walling. Okay? Then you have, he said, Steve Cunningham. who really didn't accomplish anything as a heavyweight. As a cruiserweight, he was the IBF champion, but that's it. Then you said Dillian White, who by your own admission, you said only thing he's ever accomplished was winning the British heavyweight title. That came out of his mouth. You can go find that on Tyson Fury's IG page. He said this in an interview. So with that being said, he's only fought 2 champions, heavyweight champions that is. It's no way I can say that's a top 10 resume. Not all time. If you want to argue he's the best of this time, and that's a good argument of this time, from 2000, we'll say 15 or 14, something like that, or 13, whatever. We'll say the 2010s. If you want to give him that, I'll give him that all day. The last 10 years, whatever, I'll give him that or whatnot. But all time, you telling me, matter of fact, how about I just see if I can name off 10 heavyweights. 10 heavyweights that I'm pretty sure most people would say, no, he wouldn't go ahead of. Muhammad Ali, definitely not. Hey, come on now, we're talking about the likes of George Foreman, Leon Spinks, Kenny Norton, Ernie Shavers. I mean, come on, man, Jimmy Young, Joe Frazier, Ronnie Lau. I mean, the list goes on, man. Sonny Liston. Tyson Fury ain't fought nothing like that. Nothing. We talking about the greatest of all time. And I ain't talking about no out of the ring mess either. I ain't talking about the fact that he decided he ain't going to the Vietnam. Forget all that. I don't count that. I'm talking about in the ring, who he defeated and his accomplishments. He fought when it was only one real heavyweight champion. So forget about all them belts. They didn't have belts like that back then. That's back then. The NABF and the USBA were big titles. If you had those belts, you were a top fighter. Now today you have the USBA or NABF, you still might be a journeyman or something like that. If you consider his attributes and his resume, no doubt about it, you definitely could not put Tyson Fury over Muhammad Ali, period. But let's move on. Who's next? And if this ain't in order, I'm just naming off 10 heavyweights. I might go more than that, but we're going to do at least 10. George Foreman. Definitely. I'm talking, and he has, as much as Fury has accomplished, it's reasons why he has stuff that's going against him. But we're going to say Ali, 3-time heavyweight champion, first man to do it. And that's we're in an era where it wasn't a bunch of belts. George Foreman, who won the heavyweight title in 2 different eras. Come on now. The 70s and the 90s. Almost 20 years apart. Yeah, got to give him credit. The man fought 7 world champions, was 2-time heavyweight champion, and if you want to go that lineal route, he should have been undisputed because he beat the man that was undisputed, who beat the man that was undisputed, going all the way back to Mike Tyson. What I'm trying to say is Mike Tyson was undisputed. Buster Douglas beat him to be undisputed. Holyfield beat him to be undisputed. Riddick Bowe beat him to be undisputed. Now here's where things get tricky. Riddick Bowe, instead of fighting Lennox Lewis, decided to vacate the WBC title and take on another opponent, making Lennox Lewis the new WBC champion. But as they like to say about Tyson Fury, Riddick Bowe would have still been the lineal undisputed champion. Holyfield then, in a rematch, beat Riddick Bowe, what would have made him undisputed if Bowe wouldn't have vacated the title. Then Michael Moore beat him, and Foreman wound up beating him. If they wouldn't have started splintering those belts off because of you didn't fight this guy, that guy, by that lineal standard they're using with that they used for Tyson Fury, George Foreman would have been the lineal undisputed champion. At undisputed, if you want to pull that lineal stuff, he had more title defenses, than Tyson Fury, and he's a 2-time champion like Tyson Fury, and he was undisputed. If you want to go the lineal route, like Tyson Fury. And number 3, we go bring out Evander Holyfield, who was the first man to win the heavyweight title on 4 separate occasions, and should have been 5 because I forget the big Russian 7-foot guy who looked like a big grizzly bear. He beat him for the belt. I don't care what nobody say. He whooped that dude. But 4-time heavyweight champion. One of those times was undisputed. He beat 11 world heavyweight champions or future heavyweight champions, and he also was undisputed at cruiserweight, not even counting the champions that he beat at cruiserweight. So I find it hard to believe that you could put Tyson Fury ahead of Evander the real deal Holyfield. I'm Mike Tyson. Whether you're a Mike Tyson fan or not, how would you think Tyson Fury would fare against Mike Tyson? That would be I would love to see the contrast in styles, but Mike definitely one of the most dominant heavyweights of all time. A lot of people put him in their top 10. Some people won't now. Some people won't, but we're going to go with Mike Tyson. Tyson defeated 9 champions during his heavyweight reign of terror. He also was a 2-time heavyweight champion. 1 time was undisputed. The other time during his last reign, he was unified. I mean, hey, the most scariest man in the heavyweight boxing history. No way in the world I'm putting him over Mike Tyson. No way. Now, the next former heavyweight great we got to go with is Lennox Lewis. Now, I mean, come on now. Lennox Lewis is a 3-time heavyweight champion, a 2-time lineal champion, and is the last heavyweight to hold undisputed. Now, not just that, but he also beat 11 world champions during his career. The likes of Mike Tyson, Evander Holyfield, Tommy Morrison, Ray Mercer. I mean, the list goes on and on. And he also stopped the next wave or held off the next wave of heavyweight champions, the likes of Hasim Rahman, Michael Grant, Shannon Briggs, Vitaly Klitschko. These are guys that went on to dominate the next decade of heavyweight boxing. I'm sorry, but I cannot put Tyson Fury over Lennox the Lion Lewis. No way, no how. Now, the next heavyweight we're going to have to put in the list over Tyson Fury is Joe Louis. Joe Louis was the world heavyweight champion from 1937 until 1949, the longest reign in the history of any weight division. Louis successfully defended his title 25 times, more than any other champion in any division, scoring 21 knockouts. I'm sorry, but there's no way in the world I'm putting Tyson Fury over Joe Louis. He accomplished way too much, and in an era when you had 1 champion, so all that he was undisputed. He was undisputed for holding 1 belt. If you wanted a title, you had to come see Joe Louis. And I know people going to say, well, what about the size differential? Well, believe it or not, yes, Joe Louis fought in the 180s and the 190s, but guess what? He also fought men that was well above 200 pounds. I'm talking 230s, 240s, 250s, 260s. He fought men that was 6'4", 6'5", 6'6". So maybe not quite Tyson Fury size, but very close enough that you can't just say because of Tyson Fury's size, he will automatically beat Joe Louis. So if you add up Joe Louis's accomplishments, which is well beyond Tyson Fury's, there's no way I could put him in front of the Brown Bomber. Now, the next heavyweight we got to bring out ahead of Tyson Fury is Larry the Eastern Assassin Holmes, who was the WBC heavyweight champion from 1978 to 1983. He was the ring heavyweight champion from 1980 to 85 and the IBF heavyweight champion from 1983 to 1985. He made 20 successful title defenses, second only to Joe Lewis's 25. He defeated 10 champions throughout his career, beating the likes of Ken Norton, Muhammad Ali, Ernie Shaver, Mike Weaver, Gary Cooney, Tim Witherspoon, Carl the Truth Williams, Marvis Frazier, a much younger Ray Mercer, just barely losing to Evander Holyfield. So, I'm sorry. As far as accomplishments, 20 title defenses, 20. Now, he didn't get to be undisputed. Unfortunately for Larry, he fought in the age where all these different belts start popping up. And unfortunately, he didn't get to fight for all of them, so he never became undisputed. But I watched boxing during that era, and clearly Larry Holmes was the man of the early 80s, the late 70s, I'll say about the 78 to 84, 85, when he lost to Michael Spinks, and when Mike Tyson came in. From Ali to Tyson, Larry Holmes was the man. So, no, I'm sorry, Tyson Fury, there's no way I can put you ahead of Larry Holmes. Now, this one I think a lot of people might be a little angry with, but I'm going to have to go with Vitaly Klitschko over him. Now, first of all, Vitaly Klitschko gave Lennox Lewis the toughest fight of his career outside of his losses, that is, where he was knocked out. A lot of people thought Vitaly Klitschko was handing Lennox Lewis his hat when they stopped the fight due to one of the worst cuts you will ever see in your life on Vitaly Klitschko. That was his first loss. His second loss is when he injured his shoulder against Chris Bird and could not continue. They stopped the fight. So both his losses had controversy tied to him. Lennox Lewis retired before he got the chance to get that rematch. And Chris Bird, he did eventually get back in the ring, and it wasn't pretty. He beat the mess out of Chris Bird, showing that he was the better boxer, even though Bird got the win due to an injury. He held the WBO title from 99 to 2000. He was the Ring Magazine title holder from 2004 to 2005. And the WBC title he held twice between 2004 and 2013. Overall, he defeated 15 opponents in the World Heavyweight title fights and made 12 successful title defenses, beating 7 champions throughout his career. Once again, I hate to say this, but you gotta penalize Tyson Fury for lack of title defenses. I understand he beat the great Vladimir Klitschko, brother of Vitaly Klitschko, who was one belt shy of being undisputed. Well, guess who had that other belt that kept him from being undisputed? His big brother, Vitaly. And yes, I understand he beat Deontay Wilder for the WBC and held the Ring Magazine. I get all that. But he still only have, matter of fact, to this day, he only have one title defense, and that's against Deontay Wilder. Just one. His last fight was his first title defense. I'm sorry. His resume is lacking, and he only has one title defense. Dillian White will be a second title defense. I'm sorry. His resume is poor. No title defenses. That's a lack when you got other heavyweights. Matter of fact, and he only fought 2 champions. I'm sorry. I can't put him over these guys. But let's move on. Rocky Marciano went undefeated. Now Tyson got a similar argument. But it's a reason why Tyson will fall short if you stack up his resume against Rocky's, Rocky beat more champions and Rocky had more title defenses. Now Rocky, he was heavyweight champion for 4 years, and he's the only boxing champion to ever retire undefeated. And also, this is a nice fun fact as well, Rocky Marciano, he stopped every fighter that he faced for the world heavyweight title and holds the highest knockout to win ratio in world heavyweight title fights at 85.7%. Now, unfortunately, he only fought 4 world champion or former world champions: Joe Louis, Ezra Charles, Archie Moore, and Jersey Joe Walcott. So his resume, as far as fighting champions, is still better than Tyson Fury, but it's kind of paltry compared to all the other guys that we named. Now, with that being said, it's still more than what Tyson Fury done, and it was no undisputed. Any champion that was a champion back then was the lineal champion. So, yeah, he still has more accomplishments than Tyson Fury does, far as resume and far as title defenses. Sorry, I hate to say this, only thing Tyson Fury really will be on par with Rocky Marciano with, if he does beat Dillian White, is that he retired undefeated. That's it. So I'm sorry, I'm going to have to go with Rocky Marciano on that one. Now the next heavyweight champion, and the last one that we're going to do, this will be number 10, is Joe Frazier. Now, Frazier had a lot of accomplishments throughout his career, but none as big as beating Muhammad Ali. The first man, that's right, to accomplish beating Muhammad Ali. Now, some would say Ali wasn't quite in his prime, but he was a lot closer to his prime when Frazier fought him than he was when George Foreman, Kenny Norton, and Leon Spinks and others fought him. So you got to give Joe's props for that. Now, Joe held the WBC and WBA titles for 4 years and had 10 title defenses in those 4 years. So Joe was a bad boy. Now, Joe don't quite get the recognition that he should, but on this one, once again, we gotta give him the props over Fury, because Fury ain't fought no 10 title defenses. Now back then, if you had the WBA and the WBC, that would make you undisputed. Muhammad Ali held both of them as well. I think also the New York State Athletic Commission might have had some type of title floating around back then as well. I'm assuming that's what that is, the NYSAC. But anyway, so yeah, I mean, like I said, you can argue several other fighters besides the people that I put up there, but it would all basically boil down to the fact that Tyson Fury only fought 2 champions. Tyson Fury only has 1 title defense, and if he beat Dillian White, it'll be 2. Now, I'll admit that going undefeated with 1 draw, that's a pretty nice chip to have, or a pretty nice card in the argument. But at the same time, your resume sucks. You could argue that explains why he's undefeated. You could argue that the reason why he's undefeated is because he only fought 2 champions, or because he only fought, as he said, this was what he said on his resume that sticks out. And it don't get no better if you dig in his resume. It doesn't. But Deontay Wilder, Vladimir Klitschko, he said Derek Chisora, who's basically a glorified journeyman slash gatekeeper. He said Steve Cunningham, who wasn't even a real heavyweight and never won a heavyweight title. And he said Otto Wallin. And Otto Wallin ain't won nothing. He only been in one big fight, and that's been with Tyson Fury. Oh, and Dillian White, and that's if he beats Dillian White, who also hasn't done anything. Well, he got the interim title, and Dillian White has a pretty decent resume, so I'll give him that. But that's still really only, if you think about it, only 3 real fights on this. Well, no, because Wilder you got to count 3 times. But the point is, he only fought really 3 guys that you would say are really top heavyweights: Wilder, Klitschko, and Dillian White. We don't know what Otto Wallin is. Derek Chisora, no, you can't count him as a top heavyweight. He's a gatekeeper. Sorry, but that's what he is. But so I mean, you got heavyweights who did their thing, like really did their thing, not win a belt, then go retire for 2 years and come back. Now I'll give him his props. He came back from a 2-year layoff, but that was self-inflicted. You see what I'm saying? I'll give him all the credit in the world for having talent, skill, athleticism, smarts. I mean, he's the total package in my opinion. Even the power, I tried to tell people a couple years ago, the man can hit. You just seeing him fighting going backwards. When you see him go forward, it's going to look different, a whole lot different. And that's what we saw when he came forward against Deontay Wilder. That wasn't nothing new. He's done that before. You just got to go back to his old fights. The man fights in different styles depending on who the opponent is. But like I said, I give him all the props in the world, but I can't say he's top 10. I just can't do it. Now, could I argue he's top 15? Maybe. Top 20? Probably. But top 10? Hell no. I can't do it. I'm sorry, I can't. But that's my opinion on it. I'm pretty sure you got yours. So this is what I'm going to tell you to do. Hit me up in the comment section and let me know what you think. Is Tyson Fury a top 10 heavyweight? Hey, man, I can't give him that. I can't. Not as of right now. Now, if he was to go on another 5-7 fight title reign, then we can talk business. But he don't have any titles, defenses, and that's his biggest problem. That's his biggest problem. Even Deontay Wilder, as much as people hate him, the reason why you can argue Deontay Wilder is still the best heavyweight in this era, even though Tyson Fury beat him, is because he does have 10 title defenses. Fury don't. The man will have 2 by the time he fight Dillian White. 2 title defenses in 2 different title reigns, championship reigns. Come on, man. I'm sorry. I can't give him that. He will have to accomplish more, in my opinion. But like I said, that's my opinion. And that's pretty much all I got. This head busting boxing's own Fight Doctor. Hit that like button, hit that share button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. Hit me up in the comment section. Let me know what you think. Do you believe Tyson Fury is a top 10? I ain't even putting that what he said about going down as the greatest. A top 10 heavyweight of all time. I say hell no. This is Head Busting Boxers on Fight Doctor I, and I'm out.